Hello everyone! Today we're going to talk about why using the 5 W's might not be appropriate in certain situations. So I'm sure everyone has heard of the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, and why. So these W words are used effectively to ask a question, and we have learned in basic English that the 5 W's, who, what, where, when, and why, and the one H, how, is used in order to ask a question. However, this must be used carefully in business English. The who, what, where, when, and why, if misused and used in the beginning of a question, can sound rude or inappropriate. So here are some examples. If someone calls you and you say, "Who are you?" or "What's your name?" it's a little bit awkward. Instead, you could say, "May I know who's calling, please?" "May I know who's calling, please?" Or, "May I have your name, please?" "May I have your name, please?" When a client visits Korea for the first time, you shouldn't say, "Why are you here?" It sounds like you work in immigration, or it sounds like you're very interrogating. Instead, you could say, "What brings you to Korea?" "What brings you to Korea?" I know now you will ask me, that's a W question too. But, it's actually used in a different context because indirectly you're asking, what business brought you to Korea, instead of asking why you are here. If you actually want to be extra polite, then you could say, "May I ask what brings you to Korea?" "May I ask what brings you to Korea?" And when you have dinner with a client, and a client brings you to an exotic restaurant, and you don't know the name of the dish, it would be rude to say, "What is this? What is this?" Instead, we could say, "Could you tell me what this is? Could you tell me what this is?" So let's say that you're in a meeting and you find that some data doesn't match and it's somewhat a sensitive issue. Then we shouldn't say, "What is this number?" Instead, we could say, "Could you clarify this number? Could you clarify this number?" In the same context, when dealing with sensitive matters, we shouldn't say, "Why did the revenue decrease?" Instead, we could say, "Could you explain the reason of the decrease in revenue?" Could you explain the reason of the decrease in revenue? So anyway, my point is, you shouldn't use a W in the beginning of a question in certain situations. Ask indirectly by putting the W in the middle of the question. So instead of saying, "What are you doing?" you could say, "Could you tell me what you're doing?" In that sense. Everybody understand? Of course, the W questions are direct and they're on point. However, depending on the situation, if you put the W in front of the question, it might sound a little aggressive and rude. Oh, and this is really important. The tone is also very important when you're using a W question. It's not pure curiosity. It can be sending a message to show disapproval or can sound very aggressive. So here are a few examples. Please try to listen to the tone and accent. Why did you come to Korea? Why did you come to Korea? Versus, why did you come to Korea? Why did you come to Korea? Can you hear the difference between these two questions? The first question, why did you come to Korea? The accent is in Korea, and it's actually asking out of pure curiosity. The second question, why did you come to Korea? As you can tell, the accent is on why, and it sounds very aggressive and interrogating. So here's another example. Who are you? This is generally a very rude question, and we normally don't use this. It doesn't matter where your accent falls, it sounds rude. Who are you? Or who are you? Both sound rude. So as I mentioned previously, it would be much nicer to say, "Excuse me, I don't think we've met." "Excuse me, I don't think we've met." Or, "Excuse me, have we met?" "Excuse me, have we met?" Instead of, "Who are you?" So let's wrap up. Sometimes in business situations, it is actually inappropriate to use a W question. Instead, we need to be more indirect and try to avoid using the W in the beginning of the question. We could always use the W word in the middle of a question. Like I say, TPO is very important. Time, place, and occasion. In an informal situation, you can always say, "What are you doing?" But please remember, the tone can change everything. If you say, "What are you doing?" it would actually mean whatever you're doing is unacceptable. So please be cautious of the tone and the situation in which you use the W questions. Thank you!